goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's going on, people? Welcome to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Poseidon Strength. Glad to be here with these guys. We got Robbie, we got Austin, we got Kevin, I'm Holmes. And on this show, we're the same old faces with a new name. We're going to talk wrestling results. We'll talk storylines. We're definitely going to give our opinions, and we're certainly going to have a shit ton of fun. We're probably going to curse a couple of times because that's just how we talk.
I would never.
You would never. You're probably the most clean mouth person I've ever met, ever. But we encourage people to leave comments, send us an email at quadpodwrestling@gmail.com. Let us know if we discussed something that you hated, if you didn't like something that we said, or you want us to dig into something. Certainly send us, maybe even just send us a shout out or whatever it is. You can follow us on social media, Quad Pod Wrestling on Instagram, Quad Pod Wrestle on Twitter. Follow us individually. All of our handles are on the screen as well as linked below. So yeah, make sure that you're paying attention because this is going to be a really, really fun show. Of course, like, share, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you are tuned in that way. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, make sure you also subscribe there. And with our sponsor, Poseidon Strength, make sure if you do go on their website, which is also linked below, that you are using our discount code. QuadPod is the discount code, and just mention us and you will get a discount on anything that you buy from those fine gentlemen at Poseidon Strength. Now that we have all that shit out of the way, let's get into our topics. And we're going to have segments on this show for anyone that has tuned in before. When we were on the other podcast, we did not really have segments. We kind of were just having fun, talking shit, and doing what we do. Now we're going to break things up a little bit more. And before any good wrestling match, you got to weigh in. So every single show, we will weigh in. We're either going to give a rant, we'll give a shout out, or we'll just talk some shit. So first and foremost, let's dig into the weigh in. So I'm going to start with Kevin. Any rants or any shout outs or anything that you saw last weekend that kind of caught your attention? It's probably things that we'll probably dig into more as the conversation goes, but floor is yours. Start off the show.
First episode, and I'm completely unprepared.
No pressure. No pressure.
Okay. This is my rant is that I watched very little wrestling this weekend, actually, and I know there was a lot of good stuff going on, but there was also 40th birthday party. Shout out to my friend Bobby Taylor. That was a great time. 40-year-old.
Good job, Bobby.
On a party bus. That means it started at 4 p.m. and we were in bed by 9:30.
That's exactly how you party.
The way it should be.
Yeah, exactly. I guess my first rant is from some of the wrestling that I did watch. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just used to the freestyle rules, and there was just a couple different times when I was like, wait, what's happening? Like, Ridge Lovett, PJ Duke at the end of that match, he throws the leg in on the edge of the mat. It looked pretty clearly like a takedown to me. They review it. They take away the takedown and put the 6 seconds back on the clock. And it's like, well, damn, like at least he had 6 seconds where he was like in on a shot, now he's got to just chase again. So that seemed a little weird. I guess I'm done being outraged about the Starocci part just because, I wasn't outraged. I was literally in a hotel room getting ready to go out on a party bus when I saw the results. But I've seen enough people tweeting out like, read the rules. And it's like, okay, read the rules, guy. Thanks. It's okay. Like sometimes rules suck. Like it seems like that should have been a takedown to me. So that just means that it might be the rule, but that rule is stupid. So that's my only rant. Freestyle rules are going to have to get reacclimated to what is a takedown versus what it's not a takedown versus folk style. And, getting my mind wrapped around some of those changes. But in general, I do like freestyle wrestling. It is fun. And it's fun to see who shows up. Shout out to Joey Blaze. Dude fucking showed up, man. Was ready to go, knocking off all Americans and just showing that, NCAA's was not a fluke. Like he's one of those guys. So
he's also huge.
He is massive.
Yeah, not small.
Yeah. Robbie, what do you got?
I think opposite of that, as far as the freestyle rules go. I think we run into this every year where when we have the changeover from folk style to freestyle season, where there's a misunderstanding of rules, misapplication of rules, just because we're so set in our ways with folk style that, you know, those did both look like takedowns, and they probably would have been if it were folk style, but within the rules of freestyle, they were both the right call. So I mean, it's just, we're always going to have that. We're, you know, one of those countries that are traditional style, I guess we can call it that, is folk style, and you know that's what most of us grow up doing, and we're more ingrained in, and that's the rule set that we're mostly used to, and it's always a changeover when we're coming back to freestyle season. So as far as shout outs, Jim Dutrow running wrestling show today in May. I haven't done a very good job posting this year, but I think it's a really good thing to get some visibility for programs. He started it after COVID, and in a way try to get some positive vibes out there for, there you go. I still have like 4 Gardner Webb shirts to pull out.
Yeah.
Shout out Daniel Elliott, does a great job providing gear. But you know, everybody who participates in that, and just it's always fun to me to see the different programs that get some publicity that don't usually get it. So that's fun.
For sure. Austin?
I will give my shout out to Army West Point Wrestling and Coach Kevin Ward. Just I guess stepped down from his head coach job, and we'll get into it then. Taking an assistant job at Oklahoma State, where he was a great wrestler there. I believe he still has some family there with his wife. Wife's family lives there, so definitely took Army up a notch, and then took the EIWA up a notch, which me, the EIWA guy, love seeing that. Going to be big shoes to fill, but you know, I think Army was going to make another good choice there, and they're going to keep climbing that ladder there. So shout out to Army Wrestling.
Yeah, all very good shout outs. And I think I'm gonna kind of piggyback off one of the things that Kevin said about the rules and how, you know, getting reacclimated, but how everyone goes from a folk style rules expert to a freestyle rules expert. And if you don't pay attention to, if you don't have like one nuanced thought about a rule or an idea about it, or you're not completely in the know, like you get like completely ridiculed, which is the dumbest thing, because it's the complete opposite of what everybody says of like, we got to grow the sport, and you know, we need more people to come and enjoy the sport. But then the minute that people try to come in, we're like, you don't know what you're talking about. And
we don't need your stupid idiot takes.
Exactly. Right. And it's pretty damn ridiculous. So while I love the nuanced conversations on Twitter about rules and this, that, and whatever, there's also a really stupid subculture of gatekeepers that we have that want to keep those people on the outside, but in the same breath say we need to grow the sport. So that is my rant from kind of being more of a spectator, at least on Twitter this weekend. Watched more wrestling than I did tweeting this weekend. But yeah, that was it's dumb. I mean, we get it every year. We get it literally every big event where all eyes are on, you know, the matches that everybody wants to watch, and it's pretty freaking stupid, to be completely honest.
This is what happens with like hockey. And like, you know, at least on Twitter or whatever, it's like if you jump in to say something about hockey guy has to show up and be like, you don't even know. Like, and it's so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like icing on cakes, but I don't know what icing means, except that about a blue line.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
So that's the first segment. We've weighed in on a couple of things that we're gonna dig deeper into as the show goes on. But before we even get there, I want to get into the World Team Trials, the actual wrestling, what everyone was paying attention to besides Kevin, who was on a party bus. But I want to start on the women's side of things. And Kevin, you said something about who shows up, and on the women's side, I mean, it's not a knock, but it's kind of the truth of everyone is always going to be more tuned in to who shows up on the men's side, and who is going to be there, and who these ladies are is not something that is readily available to anyone really, unless you're like truly paying attention. But on that women's side, there was our youngest Olympic champion was wrestling and had a hard fought match. And that's kind of where I want to start, is with Amit being on the mat. And we gave Skylar Grote all her flowers during our final show over on the Internet podcast. So, go check that out. But I want to speak to the fact that she battled Amit during that match, and it was 2-1, very close, very stingy, good positioning, all the things that you would want in a match if you're up against an Olympic champion, outside of, beating that person. But the match was a very tight knit match. And Skylar at the end tweeted that she closed the gap and, she's not going anywhere and she'll be back again and all this and all that. And I think that is amazing, how we can have somebody who we believe is just head and shoulders above the rest, completely head and shoulders above everybody else in the weight class. But then they get into a match with another veteran, and it's a dogfight. That match for me was just like, man, this, as even though we said we're not showcasing the best of our depth on men's and women's side, that showcased a little bit of the depth, and it showcased the fact that we have a veteran in Skylar Grote who is still around to do some damage and do some work. A part of me wishes that she would have dropped maybe to 68, because then she could have maybe been heading to Final X, because, wrestling a meet is, whether it's 2-1 or 12-1, still not the easiest feat. But it's pretty well documented how Skylar has gone through her weight transitions and her battles with anything that comes to cutting weight or anything else. But what were your guys' thoughts? Robbie, I'm going to come to you. What were your thoughts on seeing how close that result was, most likely after feeling, or at least thinking, that Amit was just like on another level and that not many people were going to be able to compete with her?
Well, I think there's two things to look at. One, Skylar looked fantastic. And one of the things she highlighted was how beneficial it's been for her to have Sarah Hildebrandt in her corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're just seeing the beginnings of what Sarah Hildebrandt's going to do in that position. I think she's going to be a phenomenal asset to have. She's just an awesome person in general, but she's going to be great in the corner. We also take into account that Amit hasn't wrestled since the Olympics. So that's a long layoff, and it's a different weight class. So, you're going 10 months without wrestling, a legit match, and you're moving a weight class. I would expect some rust, even from someone as decorated as her. The match was great. It was really close. It was, any action either way could have decided it. So there's not much more you can ask for out of a match, unless you want some more points. But I think it was great. It was fantastic. I mean, they're both pretty close. Clearly, we're seeing some continued growth from Skylar, and I think we'll see a more polished Amit in a very difficult match at Final X.
Agree with that.
Or Finals X.
Yeah, saw that graphic today. Austin, Kevin, any thoughts?
No, I agree. I think it's good for both wrestlers. With me just being a returning Olympic champ, getting pushed domestically, first competition back is gonna, keep forcing her to keep that training up and, keep that chip on her shoulder and, keep going at it. And props to Skylar, man. She came out and, wasn't scared, obviously, came out and almost won that one, like you guys were saying. So I think it's good on both parts there to get some depth at that weight and keep it going. And like Skylar said, she's not going anywhere. She's been in this game for seems like forever at this point. She's a vet now, but it's good to see her, finally almost reach that ladder. Not quite there, but she's still hungry and looks like it's going to be coming here soon for her. It was great to see.
Yeah, she's a beast. And that's what you want to see from somebody trying to earn that spot. You go battle and, you get what you earn. Ultimately, Amit, maybe a little bit of a wake up call for her too. But yeah, like Robbie said, you're adjusting maybe to the weight class, hasn't been in a competitive match in a while. Let's get out there and put it together. So I'm sure she'll be ready for Final X.
Agreed. And yeah, Skylar has another match, as most everybody else does too, that was second. I believe you have a true, not everyone, but some have a true
there's
second.
A true
match.
third for the
true
national
third
team.
for the national team. So So yeah, we'll be seeing a good amount of these men and women. What is that in Newark in June? To
June
see who makes
14th.
the national team. Also on that women's side, I mean, the matches weren't very close, and the match that really caught my attention was at 53, and I was watching Felicity Taylor Sage Mortimer match, and that one was
She whooped some
the
ass.
it was complete
Mhm.
blowout. But the interesting thing for me, the thing that really I was impressed with by Felicity Taylor was her technique. There's a part in the match, and I think everyone should go watch it, where Sage is like digging double unders, like digging. And Felicity just like disappears, like drops into a shot, and then she's up and through a double. And I was like, that it was kind of reminiscent of something that I've seen from like Zahid, where Zahid just like disappears on a duck. Like this was completely different because she was digging like double unders, and she was able to basically clear the underhook on her right side and get to like fireman's kind of a look, but then switched off to a double and like ran it down. And I was like, that was great technique. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. I was very impressed by Felicity Taylor. Out of, all the girls. I mean, we, like I said, we talked about Skylar, but like the girls that won, that was probably the most impressive for me because of her technique. I was very impressed with her technique wise. Did you guys see anyone else on the women's side before we switch to the men's? That was, that you saw something from that you didn't expect, or somebody that just like stood out?
I think Diamond Guilford kind of had a big comeback from a loss at U.S. Open semifinals
Mm-hmm.
in the finals here and beat Elena Makiev. And that was a great turnaround for her. She looked great the whole tournament.
And wasn't Jakar in the pre-seeds at 50? Was it at 55? And then up to 59. Do I remember, am I remembering that correctly? I know that she's done it in the past where she was registered for a lighter weight and then came time and she had moved up. So Jakara basically, she's been a perennial on the world stage for a very long time, been in the world finals and won world title and everything else. Her, Aaron Golston, obviously too. Um, so there's a good bit of competition that we were able to see on the women's side. And, I also want to highlight the Sarah Hildebrandt factor, right? She is in the position for a reason, and it should be evident with how she got Skylar Grote ready that she's going to be a phenomenal coach, if not already a phenomenal coach. And she's going to be great for that program for sure. Let's switch to the men's side and let's go right at it, right? Like let's start at 86. Kyle Dake, Carter Starocci, everyone's been talking about it. Was it a takedown? What'd you think of it? Kevin, coming to you first. What were your thoughts on it? You kind of alluded to it in the weigh in, but what were your thoughts on that final sequence between Dake and Starocci?
I mean, Starocci went after it. I'm happy he did. He was putting the pressure on there for a while. Dake's a magician. Ultimately, like, don't expect me to know the rules at this point, but who does know the rules is Kyle Dake, so he knew exactly where he was. He didn't seem to panic at all. And at the same token, shout out to Carter Starocci, man. Like that guy was right there with, Dake is legit. Dake is a multiple time world champion and world medalist. He's one of the all-time greats. And Carter coming, straight out of college was right there with him. So I mean, as you kind
Straight
of
out of college, but he's 27. So
that's fine.
We're gonna get to the age thing in a second, both on both sides. Keep going, Kevin.
My point is he's likely going to get better, and Kyle Dake is likely going to continue to get worse, right? And so that's just how it's going to be. I expect Carter, if he decides to stick with wrestling and keep this going for a while through the quad or whatever, that he's going to be one of those contenders for world team spots for the next several years. I hope we get to see him through the quad, and then maybe he transitions to whatever he wants to do next. But yeah, that was really impressive for a guy who, I don't know, I hadn't really seen do that much freestyle with that much level of success till now. So
Yeah. Austin, was it a takedown? In your estimation, was it a takedown?
I went back and forth and going back watching the replay and everything. I don't know the rules enough for freestyle, but to me, it felt like kind of what Willie said on his Bashing Mania and Bashing the Brain, whatever it is. It feels like a takedown, but I don't think it is a takedown in freestyle. If we would have got a little more exposure there from Dake, I think they would have got it. But what confused me was they ruled it a takedown, then they took it off. There was a challenge and back and forth, and at least from what I remember, so it's like I feel like the refs didn't really know if it was a takedown or not. So it's one of those. It was just super super close, and if it would have gone the other way, I probably wouldn't have been mad. I'm not mad either way, but it's just razor thin between these two, and you gotta wonder, if how much familiarity is there between these guys? How often do they wrestle? How many times does Carter hit that shot on Dake? There's a lot of questions to ask there, but yeah, I don't think it was in freestyle, but something tells me that looks like a takedown, kind of feels like a takedown, but again, freestyle takedown's a little different, right?
well, the other thing I forgot to add in here is the thing that I would be more upset if I thought that like somebody was going to beat Zahid Valencia who got this spot. I don't think either of these guys have a chance to beat Zahid. So I'm like, whatever. Like, although I felt the same way about the Knicks going up against Boston, like, sweet job beating us. Now you're just going to go get your ass kicked. And then they didn't. So anyway, who knows?
Yeah, I think for me, and I think you're kind of right about the refs on the mat were like, all right, yeah, give him 2, right? Because they were like, somebody's coming around to clean up our mess or solidify that we're right. So we're kind of exonerated no matter what in it. We're either going to get, a double stamp on this triple stamp or
Yeah, triple stamp with double stamp.
exactly, right? When they showed that, when they took the 2 away. So I feel like that was kind of that was the premise, right? We're gonna make it 5-3 because we've been around long enough, and we'll get to the refereeing in all of this as well. Not just this match, but the overall refereeing. But we're gonna give the 2 because we know there's a challenge coming, and when that challenge comes, it goes to independent review. So it was kind of like we are a product of the system, and this is going to work out for us in favor of the way that it should, because let's call it what it is. The most experienced referees don't have a whistle. They are doing the challenges, and they've been designated for the booth to make the bigger decisions, not the play-by-play decisions. So that's what I feel like, so I think, Austin, you're right in that regard. When I saw it, I thought it was a takedown. But after watching it a couple of times, I watched it again today, and then seeing explanations, right? Like, I mean, I got to give a shout out to Kozak at Flow. Like, he gave screenshots of the rules, breakdown, everything, right? Didn't break 90, didn't hit his elbow, all the, the checklist of things that you kind of need to go down in order to have have it be a takedown. So shout out to him putting that tweet out there and kind of giving some nuance to it. And I mean, Piles even talked to the referees on the mat and gave, kind of just said what they had given him from being there, right? That's the right thing to do. When you're there, you go to those refs and you ask them, why wasn't that a takedown? Explain it to me so I can then go and explain it to the masses in the community, because I have the megaphone. So good explanation on them. Good by them to go and get that information so that we can at least look at it and have a little bit more of a nuanced look. But again, when I first saw it, I thought it was a takedown. I certainly thought that Carter Starocci had won the match. And, watching that back, you're like, oh shit, Carter just got to a leg way quicker than expected, right? Like, he wasted 0 time. And if you watch other matches with Carter, I watched his match with Marsteller today as well. He gets to a leg and Marsteller does his rubber knee thing and kicks out. And as they get back to their feet, Starocci's back in on a leg. So like, he was dog with a bone with his leg attacks. So, but it was one of those kind of flashback moments of Dake at the Olympics where he's comfortable in his chest wrap and he knows he can rely on it. And in this situation, it's a 50-50 situation. And in this one, it worked in his favor. When I'm watching it back, I'm like, damn, Carter had enough time to run him off the mat and he would have won because he only needed one. He only needed one for criteria, but he went for the takedown because that's just what he's ingrained to do. Right. So like, maybe in another situation, he's got Dake off his feet. He turns him to get exposure instead of just trying to sit him and being more folk style with it. Maybe goes more freestyle with more reps in that position. But again, I thought about Dake going to his chest wrap anytime somebody's in, and it had worked originally. It had worked when they were on the edge of the mat when he was in, and it seemed like Dake's legs were, trapped again, and he somehow gets his legs out from under him. But, he's not Kid Dynamite anymore, right? We're used to seeing, at least we used to in the past, see him be Kid Dynamite where he's going for big throws. When he threw Imar, that was like one of the biggest solidifications of him being a Kid Dynamite. We're not seeing that guy as much anymore. We're seeing a lot more strategy, a lot more patience, a lot more I'll pull the trigger when I need to pull the trigger. Robbie, what were your thoughts on that?
I think you're right. I mean, it certainly looked like a takedown. It felt like it should have been a takedown, but the awareness that Dake has in that position to not drop to an elbow, to stay above 90 and threaten with that chest wrap that he has hit in so many positions and against so many high level guys. Like it's a threat anytime he gets there. But to me, just the awareness of, time and body position and all the things, because he knows the rules. Well, God, I hope he does. Jeez. He knows the rules better than we do. And he knows that position. He's been in it so many times. He's practiced it so many times that he's, when he gets to that wrap, he knows where his elbows are. He knows which direction he can go. It's kind of second nature to him. So I don't think he felt as threatened as it looked like he did.
Yeah, I think more people that are fans of the sport, fans of Penn State, fans of Carter or whatever, are the ones that are maybe just not even fans of him. Just the people are more upset that it wasn't a takedown. And you see Carter tweet out, "Great win by Dake. He deserved it." When Carter is kind of in agreement that, hey, it wasn't a takedown. Dake won. That kind of makes me think, all right, maybe the call was right, because Carter's one to speak his mind. If he kind of
he's not going to shy away from saying what he wants to say.
Yeah. Part of me is like, well, they're teammates. Maybe that's part of it, but I still don't think Carter's that kind of guy. He's going to speak his mind. If he would have thought it was a takedown, I'm pretty sure he would have said something.
Yeah, the tweet was surprising because, like I said on last show, the reason that I was intrigued by this match was because when it was announced that Dake was going to Penn State and going to train at Nittany Lion, Carter was very vocal in saying you should have stayed at Cornell, right? Like, you're not welcome here. Seats taken kind of a thing, right? Yeah, right. So with seeing how the tweet went and then seeing Dake quote tweet it, it was one of two things. They're playing it up for us and knowing people would be paying attention and trying to show some cohesive nature, or they actually feel that way. And I don't think that either one of them is the play it up for us kind of people, at least, right? From what we've seen from Carter, from what we've seen from Dake, from what he's said to Burroughs in the past, like, neither one of those guys is going to fake it. So if Carter's like, I didn't earn it, Dake earned it, then cool. But I also feel like there is a speck of, we are teammates. We represent the same club. Let's have some, cohesion in this regard right now. So that was certainly part of it. But let's move on. Let's talk about the youth movement. And when we were making our picks, talked about PJ Duke and had said would not be surprised to see PJ Duke come out on top. He is freestyle savvy, and just goes and is not afraid of literally anyone in this bracket, and it showed. and he gets the 4-1 win over Bryce Andonian in the end. Robbie, I'm going to come to you as the resident ACC friend and Bryce Andonian knower. What did you think of that match?
Was kind of surprised that Bryce didn't attack more. But he relies so much on his counter offense. And there was that one exchange on the edge that, you could look at 10 different times and see 10 different scores.
Very, very
So,
Burroughs Marsteller-esque at final.
yeah.
X.
Yeah. And I mean, the more you watch it, Bryce got to an inside trip, but like the way its step out worked and the way the continuation worked, I think it was the right call. But it sucks. I mean, I unabashedly a Bryce Andonian fan. He's a great dude, and I want to see him continue to have success in freestyle. But I think coming in, we didn't know what to expect from PJ Duke because we know he is that good, but with the experience and the gauntlet that he had to run, we didn't know if he'd be able to do that, and damn sure he did, and he looked fantastic from the opening whistle and kind of ran through the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are some people that were picking PJ because he has been a terror at every age level. But like you said, like there were multiple NCAA champions in his way. So like
Beat two
while
of them.
and like while that he's going to attack and he's going to be the aggressor in certain aspects, but I think what was on full display from PJ that last weekend was his freestyle IQ. Because if you're stopping Bryce Andonian from scoring a ton of points as he's prone to do, if you are beating guys who are fresh off NCAA championships, you're showcasing your ability to make any guy wrestle your match at your pace and you get your shots and your attacks off. And that's what was probably the most impressive for me in his run is it didn't really matter who it was. They had to deal with him. Right. And I mean, Lovett was able to do some Ridge Lovett type things because he is a high level wrestler. However, it didn't result in a win because PJ was able to force the issue and wrestle his match. I do want to use PJ Duke as an overall kind of look into this youth movement. I was having a conversation the other day about the youth and these guys that are coming up and what they're inspired by. And, it was, Henry Cejudo that truly probably started it. And that inspires the Kyle Snyders and the Burrows and the Taylors and the Dakes. But now, that second set of guys is now inspiring these guys. PJ Duke, Blaze, Bo Bassett, Jax Forrest, those guys that are coming up, right? What are your guys' thoughts on these new youngsters that are wrestling up and beating All-Americans at a young age? And also, secondarily, what are your thoughts on the Bo Bassett hate in all of it as well? Austin, I want to hear from you first.
Well, my first question is, did anyone watch PJ Duke after he won? Just want to see if he gave us a shout out because none of us picked him last week. I thought maybe that was motivation. But yeah, I mean,
I literally tried to pick three Huskers. I tried to pick three different people instead of him, and not one of them made the finals.
Went over three, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point. This youth movement we're seeing is, I'm not sure if it's happened recently in the past or if this is just a new thing, but these guys are freaking ready to compete at the highest level at such a young age. And I mean, we talked before, you can do RTCs to credit that, and a lot of these just training partners that these guys have to access to great coaches, athletes, and just wrestling people overall has been astronomical in this. And I just think it goes to show that these guys they're ready to go and they're confident and they think they belong. There's maybe in the past there were young guys that were just kind of there, not quite at winning these matches, and now we've got guys winning them in Final X and appearing in Final X. You know, guys that are freshmen in college. You got some high school guys in there, and you know they're successful. And yeah, it's got to be the RTC program. It's got to be training partners, clubs, and you know maybe just overall access to just wrestling technique videos and matches. And these guys are just they're ingrained in it. They're living the lifestyle, and you know it's paying off. I think it might be unprecedented. You know, I don't have a thorough knowledge like maybe some of you guys do of the freestyle scene and how some of these guys are, but it does seem like there's like a youth movement, you know, and there's a I saw I think it was Bash put out a graphic. There's no Burrows in this Final X since first time since 2010 or something like that. Like, you know, it's maybe a changing the guard at some of these weights and maybe just overall up and down the whole lineup. It's very fun to watch.
The one caveat I do want to make though is even though we are considering Jax Forrest and Bo Bassett to be young guys, and they are in their regard, being in high school, they're also not the young guys in that effect because, and I'm not talking about hold back, whatever else, but like true age of these guys. And I don't know if Purdue was doing it on purpose, but when they put out their tweet about 19-year-old Joey Blaze, right? Because everyone is talking about how young Forrest is and how young Bo Bassett is and PJ Duke and these guys. And, you know, specifically Bo Bassett, as I said, like the Bo Bassett hate was kind of crazy with him losing to Marcus Blaze. And, you know, seeing, oh yeah, $5 million doesn't buy you wins with this, that, and whatever. And it's like, well, one, he's, you know, regardless whether he's in high school, whatever else, but he's 18, right? Like I believe Bo is 18. And so like when we do talk about the youth movement, yes, these guys are still teenagers wrestling on the senior level, which is not something that we have had a lot of outside of, like I said, Cejudo and Kyle Snyder, guys like that. But when you truly look at it, the age difference isn't that far off. The grade is what is. Where they're at in their careers is what is the most major difference. So when you guys see, you know, to take this thing a step further, when you guys see like, oh, they're only in high school, they're only, you know, they're it's just a junior, he'll be a senior in high school. Do you kind of take it with a grain of salt, knowing that like the age of them, and like I said, again, not a knock, but let's compare it to what it is. Joey Blaze was just in the NCAA finals, and he's going into what, his third year of college next year. So it's super relative with where sports are these days. What do you guys, you know, make of that? Robbie, what are your thoughts?
Wow, it's kind of a complicated matter. I mean, it's Bo turned 18 in, I think, January. So yeah, he's old. He, you know, for his age, for his grade, but he's still really, really young to be, you know, expecting high level success on the senior level. I mean, he's demonstrated at the cadet and junior levels, and we know what he's capable of, but we're talking about him going out there wrestling against guys who are in their late 20s, early 30s, and have been on the freestyle circuit for 10 plus years. Like, let's be realistic with where we're at too. I don't understand the hate. He didn't have that great of a tournament, is what it is. Sometimes that happens. And you know, I'm not a huge Bo Bassett apologist. But
Not making excuses for him, Robbie.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm here for. I didn't take anything bad away from his performance. I think he had a down tournament against really good competition. Not a lot to take away from that. He's young still. I don't think it's going to hurt him in any way to keep going where he's at.
The age thing is weird to me that people are even bringing it up. It's not uncommon for a senior in high school to be 18 years old. In fact, I think it's probably more common. Like I was young. I know Holmes, you were too, like for your grade or whatever. And did I wish that I was like the old guy just for my own like selfish competitive reasons? You're damn right I did, but I wasn't, you know, so whatever.
I would have been much better in high school if I was held back a year or
but
2 years.
It's funny though too, because it's like, so my oldest son, Cortland, the way that they do it, he is a fifth grader, but they do it based on birth year. So because he's born in November, he's wrestling like sixth graders a lot of the time, because that's just how it works. Whereas his buddies, who are also in fifth grade, were born in like January, and they're like the old kids in their brackets. So it's like there's no perfect way to get this done. Eventually, what that'll end up meaning is that Cortland has wrestled tougher talent in the youth, stages once he gets to the high school level. So in the end, like probably a good thing. But I don't know. It's funny, like, because I was looking back and I was trying to think of like some like I remember when it was Andrew Alirez beat Bryce Meredith, I think it was, at one of these like senior level US Open freestyle things. And I remember there was Surtis beat Darian Caldwell at the US Open, or Bill Farrell or something like that a bunch of years ago. We certainly are getting more. This group of these young kids is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget too, we had Dayton Fix out there wrestling for, doing impressive stuff back in the day as a high schooler. I feel like Suriano was doing some of that stuff. I think if Spencer Lee wasn't getting hurt all the time, we would have seen him at some of the more senior level stuff earlier on in his career. So I don't know, man. This is like a special group, and I don't want to take away from that. But yeah, this is special. I'm just going to leave positive things out here. Great group of young wrestlers, and definitely like it's going to help with the next group of them. In fact, my buddy's kid was getting pictures with Bo Bassett. Shout out Clay Hadinger and Ledge when they were down in Vegas. So it's like the 10, 11-year-olds are looking up to these 17, 18-year-olds, and those are the kids they're trying to be when they get older. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a changing of the guard for sure. Whether it's the media side, the fame, the NIL, the competition, no matter what it is a
$5 million.
Yeah, like the money that's being spent, like it is a new age of wrestling, and trying to utilize. That's the ugly side of like fan shit talk these days, is the price tags that are now out there for NIL deals. Even if it is something that you don't know is true, right? Like, yeah, maybe it was a $5 million whatever. Maybe it was. Maybe the only people that truly know that for a fact are Bo and his family, and anyone that they told, essentially, and Iowa, if they are offering that. But like to try to use somebody's NIL deal in a loss and say and back up your bullshit of them not being worth it is insane to me. Like, you understand that the person that used to wear the colors that are on my shirt, Mr. Spencer Lee, was like supposed to be the second coming of Cale Sanderson, and lost matches. We watched him lose matches. We watched him get pinned on multiple accounts. So I don't want to hear about, the 5 million, blah, blah, this, like, just stop, guys. Like, it's think of it, it's yeah, right. Like, it's good for it's honestly
also the
good
same
for the
people
sport
who talk
that
shit on
money
Jordan
is in it.
Burroughs though too. So
What's that?
let's take, it's the same people who talk shit on Jordan Burroughs. So let's take it with
This
a
is
grain
true.
of salt there too. So I mean, I don't know. There's like I said, it's complicated. There's a lot of things to go into it. We certainly have this wave of young talent that's incredible right now, and we're seeing them be successful against the senior level guys. I think Willie hit it really well when talking about his big board, is that this talent comes in waves like this though. Like, there's years where you have a recruiting class that looks good on paper, but they don't produce, and then you have another class that's so deep and has incredible results. And it's just the wave that we're at right now is an incredible amount of young talent, and they're not afraid to put it on the line against anybody. But as far as, I mean, the NIL stuff, I think it's going to be just tough water to wade in right now, because it's so new, and
Especially
the
in
numbers
wrestling.
that you hear, the numbers that you hear are just staggering. And to think that much money is going to kids for wrestling is just, it's kind of tough to wrap your mind around, because we've been a sport for so long where guys were working multiple jobs, working at Home Depot to make ends meet to make an Olympic run. And now we're seeing with the Living the Dream Fund and with NIL, it's a whole different world now. And people are still getting used to that. And then you add in fanaticism and shit talking, and this is what you get.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you think about it, the other youth movement that kind of comes to mind is Dayton Fix, Spencer Lee, Gable Steveson, Mark Hall, Zahid Valencia, Anthony Valencia. Like, I think Mitch McKee was in there as well, and Suriano. Like, that was a phenomenal class where we were just like, man, this is incredible, to the point where Dayton Fix I was at Flow at the time. Dayton Fix was the number one guy coming out. It wasn't Spencer Lee, right? And people were pretty pissed about that, but it was mostly because what we were seeing from Dayton was that he was wrestling up on the senior level at that time. So it was very different, right? Where he was coming in with that leg in, trap arm gut, and rolling dudes up. So it was just very different. So yeah, I mean, Willie's right. Willie is completely right to that regard of just like, we do see these things come in waves, and hopefully this is an absolute tidal wave of success for us. But let's get back to US, or excuse me, to World Team Trials, almost said US Open, to World Team Trials results. What other matches? I mean, 65, Real Woods beats Brock Hardy. David Carr over Jared Jacuse 2-0. Jacuse wrestled very stingy.
He had a damn good tournament.
He really did. Levi Haynes beats the hell out of Dean Hamity in 10-2. Josh Barr, we already talked about 86. Josh Barr over Aiden Sinclair 7-3. Zilmer over Aiello 5-3. And then Hilger over Thomas 10-4. Any of those matches that you guys kind of want to pinpoint?
I did shout out Hilger last week. I will say that. That
Very
might
true.
be the only thing I got right.
It was the hair. That's what did it.
It is,
the power
yes.
of the Thor hair.
The Thor hair. No, he was really impressive. I mean, like, heavyweight, we talked a little bit about it. It's a little bit lighter maybe than we've seen in years. Some notable big names not there, but he won the tournament. He won with everybody who showed up, and very impressive. So, and evidently the weight cut didn't hurt Zilmer all that much.
Yeah, according to
the final match.
Yeah, according to the comments on our last show, he weighed in at like 99 kilos at the US Open, so he's not cutting very much. However, him and I know we mentioned this at last show, him and Hilger standing next to each other, you would never think that Hilger is the 125 kilo and that Zilmer is the 97.
Zilmer's a massive
he's huge. But yeah, go ahead. Any other matches?
I think it was cool to see Real Woods come out.
That's what I was going to say.
Much on the freestyle scene, and left Iowa to go to Cliff Keenan, Michigan, there and train. A little change of scenery there. Yeah. But
is he training with Joey Silva? Is Joey Silva still there?
He's been doing some training in California too. He's been doing some training at Stanford. So I'm not sure what his arrangement is right now.
I wasn't sure if Joey Silva was still at Michigan because I know he was training there for a while.
You know who is there? Sergio Lemley.
Yes, very true.
He is there.
Now I just wasn't sure if they were able to just to redo their shoe gate from Iron Man.
Yeah.
Where Joey Silva ripped off his shoe. That had to be really good conversations. But yeah, I agree. Real Woods look really good.
So he almost lost first match too. Kind of had a weird takedown. And then just started rolling from there. Hardy looked unstoppable, and he knocked him off in the finals. Props to Real Woods. I know. I don't.
That was a good final too. That's a good one to go back and watch.
And he had to beat Mendez too. Like
I was surprised at that.
He had a road to get through, man. That takedown. What was that against Valencia? Where he just clubs the shit out of him.
He hits him really hard.
That was impressive. Oh, Robbie, I wanted to say too, I know you saw it, but the throw that Bryce Andonian had over Will Lewan.
Bryce is a freak.
He just like chest to chest. It was like straight out of WWF, man. It was like Ken Shamrock belly to belly suplex, man. It was
he doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And then Will stops it with his face, and he just kept going through. He just kept throwing them. It was amazing.
That's how I stop throws, with my face.
Yes.
the best way. Who needs this nose? Yeah, I mean, overall, it was, the finals were great. I think Final X is going to be amazing. Looking forward to seeing those matches at Final X. Because
Still
they're gonna be great.
interested to see how 97 is going to shake out there, though.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit.
Disorderly conduct.
Yeah, so the match happened, and to give a little background on our final show on Intermat, we talked about how Robbie gave us the insight. He had talked to Aiello, who was in the finals, and he had talked to him, and they were like, we're probably not going to wrestle the match. And then we get to day 2, and they're wrestling all of them because of the Kyle Snyder nature of it. Kyle Snyder currently suspended. He had his court case today. We'll show a little clip of that here in a second. But from what our understanding was that they were not going to wrestle that match, because if Kyle was going to be suspended, that match would have to be a best 2 out of 3 at Final X. However, that all changed, I guess, in the matter of like a week. And Kyle, my thought is that they're thinking he will be available for Final X in June. So they allowed that match to happen. And now, we got to where we got to. Now, I said Kyle had his court case today. So here's a small clip from that.
Define who he is. Given his cooperation, clean record, we respectfully ask the court to accept the joint recommendation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Snyder, anything that you wish to add?
Thank you very much, and I've learned a lot through this process, and it's taught me a lot about myself, and I plan on making much better decisions. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I see that you did take the John School. Is there anything that you want to tell the court that you learned?
The John School was really good. It's a great course, and I learned about why I made the decision that I did, which was because I, had too much pride, and I learned about the impact that these decisions have on not just my family, but the community, and so it was a very impactful course.
Okay. Also, the court's going to note that the STI and the John School has been completed. Sir, the funds that were seized will be forfeited, and the court's going to order that the record should not be sealed for 2 years from final disposition. All right. Anything else, Mr. Hoffman?
That's all you got. Thank you.
All right. Good luck to you, Mr. Snyder.
So what do we make of this situation at 97, right? Like, do you guys think that Snyder will now be available, or do you think that some sort of monkey wrench is going to get thrown into this where they're bringing, I don't know, who knows, maybe Aiello has to come back and they wrestle a best 2 out of 3 at Final X because of this, right? I mean, maybe there's 2 sides of this, right? Maybe it's, okay, well, maybe we only need to have 1 match at Final X because they already wrestled 1, or Snyder will be available. What are your guys' thoughts on either one of those scenarios? Austin, your thoughts?
I think they're gonna have Kyle Snyder wrestle, just based on the charges that he kind of pled guilty to today. Going down a classification or 2 or whatever, to that misdemeanor. So I guess technically not as severe of a crime, quote unquote, if you're going by the law. But I think they're gonna USA Wrestling, Rudis, and everyone's gonna kind of talk to Kyle and say, hey, here's, you can wrestle here. You're gonna represent US if you win at Final X, but you're probably gonna have to show face and do XYZ, autograph sessions, clinics, things like that. Just to help, maybe not force him, but like recommend those to get back in good graces, get fans back on his side.
There's definitely some repairing that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think, and that's the right thing to do, whether he's wants to do it or not. I think that's what he's going to have to do. But yeah, I'm torn if it's right or wrong. I mean, if this is an ongoing issue or he needs some kind of personal help with whatever, I think wrestling is probably secondary to him. But if this is just a one-off occurrence and he's ready to go and it's never going to happen again, he's good. He learned his lesson. Great. Let him wrestle. I'm all for second chances, but I don't know the full story with everything that's going on with him personally. But if there is a larger issue at hand, I think wrestling, can probably be on the back burner. But that's all I know.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I love the idea of the Kyle Snyder Redemption Tour 2025. That sounds like a fun tour. I want a T-shirt.
I feel like it's kind of necessary, right? Like,
does Rudis make the T-shirts?
I mean, you were a face of wrestling.
See him on video,
right? Like you were a face of wrestling, and you had, you made a big mistake. And even though we said before, like, he's getting a lot of grace, he's getting a lot of praise, getting a lot of support, it doesn't look good for wrestling. So there's got to be some sort of, maybe there is some sort of repairing that needs to be done upon him coming back. And, I feel like USA Wrestling may shield him from answering those tough questions at Final X, should he be there. But they might not, right? They might make him face it. I think either way, I wouldn't be surprised if they went either way, but there probably will be something.
The couple points I want to make, the as far as like the list of like priorities goes, right? Like his family and figuring out what's going on with that, clearly number one.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't expect to be, involved in any of that or ask questions around that or see any of that, because that's got to be tough enough as it is. So
yeah, that's private.
Priority number one. Priority number two, if it's like, I mean, I kind of agree with what you said, Austin, but also if you're like, this has got to be the lowest point of his life.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's on video for everyone to see.
If you're going through something like this, like sometimes you just kind of want to get back to work and control what you can control. So I'm not going to judge him for showing up again if that's the case, right? Like if he has the opportunity to wrestle for the spot at Final X and he wants to do it, and that normalcy is going to be helpful for him to figure it out, all for it, man. If it's going to distract him from figuring out the family stuff, like that sucks, and maybe that's worth having some concern with. But nonetheless, I would say that's probably the number two thing is like, hey, whatever version of this is going to help you get through this, do that. And then the next piece is like the redemption tour for the rest of us. Like, I do think that certainly, like, because he's a representative of USA Wrestling and Rudis and whatever that connection is going to look like moving forward, he does have a responsibility to work with those organizations to figure out how they're going to get through this together. But it's family first, career second, these relationships third, and I'm never going to stop making disorderly conduct jokes about this. This is too funny to me. It will always be.
That could have been. I just don't, pled down or not, the optics of getting arrested for soliciting a prostitute and then a month later wrestling off for a world team spot, it doesn't sit right with me. Like, especially with as visible as it's been. We've all seen the footage. We know what the actual crime was, whether or not it was pled down. Kudos to him for not having anything on his record and being able to do that and take the John class and plead that down to a very small crime, which effectively is the same thing as, one of us yelling too loudly at B-dubs when we had too many things to drink.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but it's not. And for us to pretend otherwise is disingenuous. And I like Kyle. I think he's a great guy.
Been a great ambassador for the sport.
Yeah, all my interactions with him have been fantastic. But I think to genuinely think that it's okay to just, oh, we're done. No worries. It's all gone. We're gonna move on like nothing happened. I think I think it's a black eye on our sport. I mean, if we're gonna be serious about protecting athletes and preach that as being so important with safe sport, then how are we going to say that this is okay? It just, I don't know. And on the same token, like being as visible as he is and being, such a big ambassador for the sport, he's got to have multiple publicists and people who do this. And I don't understand the thought process of just throwing him back out there. I think it's time to take a little time away. I think that would be better for him personally, and I think professionally it would probably be better for him as well to take a step back, allow some time for things to go over, for him to reset, for him to figure out things out with his family, figure things out professionally, because he's in a deep hole right now. Like Brutus pulled him from the website. Like all his stuff is out. All his stuff was out. That's funny. Um, but to I don't know, just the idea of just moving forward like nothing happened, it really bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see that. Um, from a wrestling standpoint, and like I said, there's a number of people giving him support and grace, and he deserves support. He does. I mean, you mess up, the only way to get through it is with having a support system. It truly is. So, we are not judge, jury, or executioner in any regard, but it does feel like somebody who was as frontward facing should be doing some sort of, and I'm sure he'll do some apologizing and whatever, need be. But, from a wrestling standpoint, as Kevin said, like that's secondary, even tertiary. Like that's not a thing that should be worried about right now. But since we worry more around about the wrestling part of it for us, because we want to stay out of his personal life and have, most likely wanted to stay out of his personal life until it became public. The wrestling portion of it, I can see if they would allow him to wrestle because again, the suspension happened and it was down to a decision of what will the punishment be? And I read it in an article on Yahoo, I think it was, and I think I have it here in front of me. That he could have had like 30 days in prison. Yeah, the maximum possible sentence is 180 days in prison, and $1,000 fine. So like there could have been way worse things that could have happened. However, as you heard in the clip, like $250 and he did the John class already, which was good. And then
Did anyone else think it was funny that it's called the
calls.
John class?
Yeah, very weird.
I was like, what is this? And I was like, it's exactly what it sounds like it is.
Not
Do you
good
think
for
there was anybody
guys
named
named
John in there?
Yeah, not good for guys named John.
No.
But yeah, $250 fine, court costs, and criminal record remains unsealed for 2 years. So,
And
yeah,
in the big scheme of things, like this, that's kind of what you would expect from a first-time offender. It's going to be a lesser charge, especially
Certainly.
when you have a good lawyer. Like that's not uncommon. I've sat in way too many courtrooms for way too many hours for previous jobs, watching the same shit happen over and over again.
Yeah.
And on that side, I worked in a domestic violence shelter and worked with men who beat women, and I wanted to beat all of them, but that's the whole other part of my life. So I've spent too much time in courtrooms, and I've seen this happen many, many times. So it's not unexpected that this was how things broke down. But I think optically, like there has to be some sort of statement from USA Wrestling on it. Now that their charges are resolved, there's got to be something that comes out and saying, this is what the issue is, and this is how we're going to move forward. And I just think from my point of view, I don't think it's the right step for him to wrestle at Final X.
If anyone was wondering, I just looked it up. Prostitution also illegal in Croatia.
Yeah.
So if he makes the team.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that it is no longer an issue, right? that this served as a wake up call. But back to the wrestling side of things, to, let's segue back to the fun part of this. Austin is rocking his Army t-shirt, and Robbie is rocking the Matt Boy t-shirt. Mr. Oklahoma writer Seth is on the chest of Robbie. So with that,
If only.
with that, we've had
We can wish.
we've had a switch of teams where for the second year in a row, a head coach is taking an assistant position. And this has happened before, right? Like Roby has done this. Cody Sanderson has done this as well. So this isn't the first time that we've ever seen this, but
Not even the first time at Oklahoma State.
exactly, right? What do you, Coleman Scott did it as well, right? What do you guys make of the move? And Austin, I want to hear from you first because you are EIWA guy. What do you make of the move from Ward to be heading home back to Oklahoma State? You kind of came to us when you had seen the tweet and you were like, I think this is Oklahoma State. Lo and behold, it was. I mean, it was kind of low hanging fruit for that. But what do you make of it, and how do you see this impacting Army as a guy that has covered them for as long as you've covered them?
Yeah, I mean, he's been there for over a decade now. And just the way that they've just improved so much, you know, they were kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, but not a real threat to win the IWA. And now that they're up there in the top 2, top 3, and they're beating Navy, they're hanging with Lehigh, and just having really good matches with a lot of top ranked teams. And I think they're a top 25 ranked team now. And it's not easy to do at a service academy. They're getting top 25 recruiting classes, and between him and Coach Scott Green up there, and they have a plethora of assistants kind of rotating in. But yeah, he's done an amazing job there. West Point loves him. He loves West Point. He was, I think, the perfect candidate for that. And even before he got there, coaching Division II at Ouachita Baptist in Arkansas, kind of built that program out of nothing, made them a contender. And he just has a knack for this coaching gig. And I think it only makes sense for him to go back to his alma mater and kind of bring his skills there and kind of help create that powerhouse. And I think they're going to be the next team that knocks off Penn State and kind of maybe starts their own dynasty here in this sport. And I think it's good. I don't know who Army is thinking about hiring next. I'm sure they're going to be doing a national wide search. Maybe they'll give it to Coach Scott Green. I haven't talked to anyone about that yet. But it's a big loss for Army. That's for damn sure. But it's an opportunity to get someone like Coach Kevin Ward to kind of continue that improvement and just that success on and off the mat. And you think of Army wrestling, you think of Navy wrestling, it's not just wrestling. There's a whole lifestyle involved with that. These guys aren't going out drinking, partying like some of these guys do at other schools. And it's about more than wrestling, as these guys say. And he's lived that, and now that's paying off, going back to Oklahoma State, where I think he's going to thrive, he's going to succeed, and he's going to be part of something special there.
Yeah, I want to take that kind of a step further. You said Oklahoma State is what they're doing in recruiting, whether it's recruiting coaches or, because they also brought in Roper this offseason already, now Kevin Ward, but they also have an amazing recruiting class. Jax Forrest going to be headed off there. The Rainey brothers are going to be headed off there. Like it is an amazing recruiting class that they are going to be bringing in the next couple of years. Do you feel like this is the rise of Oklahoma State? And obviously they had a pretty damn good year in Taylor's first year. They're making a lot of smart decisions. What do you guys think is kind of on the horizon? Kevin, coming to you, on the horizon for Oklahoma State as they continue to bring in talent that's going to sit in the coaching chair as well as be out on the mat?
Well, I think that's part of that recruiting pitch, whether it's to coaches, wrestlers, whoever, like all the people they're bringing in has got to be, we're going to be the team that gets this done. We're ending the run. We're starting our own thing here, and we're going to take over, and et cetera, et cetera. But credit to, I mean, Michigan went after them for a couple years ago, ended up winning the Big Ten championship, but falling short at NCAAs. Iowa's been trying for a while. They had, 2 years there where I think that COVID year, they probably would have won it. They ended up winning it all the next year. But outside of that, it's just been Penn State, really. Cornell was up there for a couple years, but nobody's really done it this way, where they've brought in a whole infrastructure along with the talent. Clearly, it's something their athletic department is completely and totally bought into. Clearly, they've got the boosters and everybody else that they need to get it done. And man, I was skeptical about how good David Taylor was going to be as a coach. I was wrong about that.
Johnny's okay.
He's pretty damn good at it. So
I mean, you didn't really know what to expect, right? Like
Right.
First time ever being a coach in any real capacity, and you don't know what to expect.
And part of the skepticism was that you have a more known commodity in Coleman Scott, who is right there, like the weirdness of the whole situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, getting back to Kevin Ward, I mean, Tommy and I at Blood Round, we followed them about 3 years ago, I think it was, as our adopted program. So we followed them the whole year. That was the year that they beat Lehigh. They hosted Lehigh and beat them, and that was a huge duel. They had PJ Ogunsanya. They had just a really fun team, and they've always had gritty dudes. Kevin Ward couldn't have been more welcoming and easy to talk to, and happy to embrace us when, with whatever content we needed from him. That was the year that they traveled to Iowa, and then, or maybe they traveled to Iowa State. Either way, they ended up wrestling Iowa and Iowa State in the same weekend just to get really good competition, because that's what teams that are trying to build do, So just couldn't be more happy for the guy to make a change and to hopefully be a part of this this program and dynasty defining thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right about that. And I want to add in Adam Terapelli's tweet about Coach Ward before Robbie weighs in. He says, I'm happy for Coach Ward, and I think he's a hell of a coach, but I do think it flashes a warning sign for the sport when head coaches are leaving on their own terms to take assistant positions, take assistant jobs. Two things can be true at the same time. Good for Oklahoma State, maybe not so good for wrestling. Robbie, what are your thoughts on, Terapelli's tweet? Terapelli, very outspoken on Twitter. Obviously, he speaks his mind about literally anything. He's an awesome guy. I love Adam Terapelli, to be completely honest. Always great every time I made a visit to Clovis. But what do you make of the situation, as well as Oklahoma State, in context of what Adam had to say about it?
I mean, it's a great move for them. Kevin's a hell of a coach. We've seen what he did at Army. He's good, and he's going to be great there. I can certainly see it as a concerning step if we see this starting to happen more and more. I think he's probably compounding, multiple moves into the same thought process, because we're not seeing a mass exodus of coaches leaving for assistant jobs at bigger places. But I think the state of the sport right now with NIL and with, the roster limits and all these changes that are coming, I mean, we have to be realistic that we're in a kind of a touchy spot, and smaller programs and less funded programs are going to be at a significant disadvantage. And, people are going to look out for themselves and their career. And if that's something they need to do for their career, then they'll make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about this decision to move down there. My understanding is his wife's family's from there, and that's got to play a role in it as well. It's not, as much as we see these guys as the figureheads of the program, it's not just about them. It's their family and what's best for them and what they need to do. And sometimes that isn't, what you want to do or what would be optimal. And it's, you make the best out of what needs to be done. And, I don't know the ins and outs of it or what's going on behind the scenes, but that's certainly something that could weigh in on it. But I think, go ahead, Kev.
not all assistant jobs are created equal either, right?
No.
Like,
Yeah.
like
or is the pay.
exactly.
And that's probably why we're seeing head coaches leave to be assistant coaches.
Well, and if you're just, not to jump all over your point, Robbie, but I think it's an excellent one. I mean, if you're at a military academy, you have to recruit within a certain pool, and there's no NIL, and they have to be committed to that whole lifestyle, and that's it. And I think that can be a positive, because you're getting a certain kind of person and competitor, right? Same could be said for some of the Ivy Leagues or higher academic schools. You're getting a certain sort of person who's committed to being successful in every facet of what they're doing. Or at least is the idea behind that. But you're also limited in resources and what you can do to then bring that person in, or give them even a shot to get into the school with their grades. So, ultimately, you can have a lot of those things overlap, and it's like, what, it would be great to be able to cast a broader net in recruiting, to be able to build more talent in different ways, to be able to be part of this thing, to be able to maybe even make more money. Who knows, right? And then you throw in family situation. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm sure Kevin Ward took all of this into account, is my point.
Austin,
I don't
you
think
did
it was a quick decision.
Yeah. Austin, you did an interview with Kola last year when he talked about what it takes in recruiting for him. Do you feel like they do have to recruit a certain type of guy, obviously, but do you feel like in making the decision, obviously Kevin Ward is a Oklahoma State alum, do you feel like maybe he does kind of weigh that option of like, when recruiting, this kind of changes the game, this maybe it makes it easier for me to go and get a guy as opposed to where I'm at now? Do you feel like maybe that kind of weighed in, as somebody who has interviewed a coach that is the head of a service academy and has to worry about most of the same things?
Yeah, I think once you kind of open up your recruiting pool, you're obviously going to get more recruits than when you just kind of focus on a few individuals. And you open that up, you're obviously going to land a lot more of those guys. You have more freedom, more money, more ability to kind of do all that. And when wrestlers transfer, we always, a lot of times we're on their side, like, hey, they're looking for the right thing for them. Maybe their goals changed, life changed, and coaches leave, and sometimes we don't give them that same courtesy. When Coach Kevin Ward, great freaking head coach, was his goal always to be the head coach at Army West Point, or not obviously not knocking them, but when a big program comes along like Oklahoma State, that can be a closer step to, let's say, an Iowa, a Missouri, Nebraska, something else that's bigger that can open up eventually. Obviously, I don't want to knock Army; they're a great school, but like you guys mentioned, there are some limitations that what you can do there as a program. Oklahoma State, it's pretty much unlimited what he can do, and a big job opens up. I'm sure he's going to be thinking about, hey, I proved myself as a head coach. I'm the assistant at this big school. I proved I can, with some funding, I can do X, Y, Z. I think I'm a good candidate for this big time school that opens up. So I think there are career goals for Coach Ward and other coaches in this position that do these things that maybe we're not looking at as well. And they have goals as well. And I think that may be a step in that goal. Maybe his end goal is Oklahoma State. I don't know. I haven't talked to him on that, but I think there's probably some things we're not even mentioning that came in that decision.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. So I want to move to, we've talked about the wrestling, we've talked about top storylines, the youth movement coming in. The last thing I want to get to before we end the show today is the venue at the World Team Trials. And a number of times we have seen slippery mats. This is not the first time that we've seen this. And the funny thing about it is, I was, good old Facebook sends you those memories and stuff. And a friend of mine, I think it was 2018, when Resolite had to put out that statement. And I think I took a screenshot of it on my phone so that I can reference it. Yeah. It was 2018 when Resolite had to put out their statement about that Thursday night's Rumble on the River event. I think that was the one that
Yeah.
might have been like on top of a building or whatever else.
Yeah.
Completely different venue, but this isn't the first time that we've seen our best guys and girls wrestle on a slippery mat. However, this was different. This was inside, but Robbie, I'm going to come to you because you made the notes in our doc about it, about literally everything that you had heard or seen or whatever else. What were the observations that you had about the mats, the venue, how the setup was? Like, floor is yours.
No offense to Spencer Moore or his dad, Jason. But Kentucky is not really a hotbed of wrestling. And for the World Team Trials to be held in Kentucky was kind of, a head scratcher to start with. I mean, I'm all for different host cities and could have been great. It was combined with whatever regionals there, Central Regional, South Central. I don't know. There's a shitload of regions, and for qualifying for the youth level. So they held it alongside the youth tournament. So it was a massive facility with a lot of mats, and just one small portion of it was the World Team Trials. So the complaints that I had heard over the weekend from the senior level athletes was that it was logistically, it was difficult to get there. It took a long time. It was difficult to get parking, difficult to get into the venue, difficult to have practice time, difficult to get on the mats and work out with space and not be kind of swarmed by younger kids trying to watch and get autographs and everything that comes with being a top tier athlete near younger wrestlers who admire you and want to meet you. But I think the slippery match just kind of was the icing on the cake of I don't know what the right word is, not convoluted, but just a busy setup for what ultimately determines the possible reps for our world team. We know that Greco's not taking part in it. They're doing things differently. So it's just men's and women's freestyle. But I don't know, and really kind of hit on this too. So USA Wrestling tends to want to just kind of throw everything together so they don't have to work out multiple logistical hurdles, which understandable. But I think for an event like this, we're talking about the tip of our ladder here, like the best guys and girls out there. Like, let's give them a little bit of respect and showcase it. And I mean, you saw the crowds watching for the finals, and that was really cool. But I think everything leading up to that, I don't know how much of a benefit it was to hold it there. And then just the fact that we're having matches determine our world team on an ice skating rink in the middle of a hot venue in Kentucky. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And Jaden Cox wasn't even wrestling, so there's no reason for the mat to be that slippery.
Great reference.
Whenever there's like an event by the water, like it was I think it was New York, was that event, and then there was the one last year on the aircraft carrier, and there's I feel like another one a couple years ago. They're doing another one, I guess, I think it was
they're doing the Yorktown one again.
In
Charleston.
And so anytime those happen, I'm like, we're gonna do this again. Like, can we maybe do it earlier in the day so it's not like the sun's not going down, the temperature's changing, and then you know what's going to happen? The humidity and the mats are slippery, and then
but then it's hot as balls, and you burn yourself on the mat. And it's just there's not a lot of good options for outdoor.
Then maybe let's just not do it, But ultimately with this, like, I don't even know if I blame them for the mats being slippery, because I don't know, like, if there was just that many people in there and the temperature outside or whatever changed. I don't know how it got slippery in there. I was just as surprised, I think, as the wrestlers probably were.
Well, the mats weren't really broken in either. Like, I'm pretty sure they were probably brand new mats that they had in there, because they have to have the Rudis logo on them now with their partnership. And then they also had the Kentucky USA Wrestling logo on them too. So they weren't, it's not like they just like slapped that on like old mats. Like, they got brand new ones. because they had brand new mats, I believe, in Vegas too, for the US Open.
But does that mean they're gonna get wet? Like I don't understand how that.
It means that when you roll those new Dolomer mats out, there's that dust that's on them, and you
Oh.
have to clean them, and it doesn't really, like, you need to be like broken in, right? Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
You need to
mean,
get the scuffs on them and work that sheen off of there.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like breaking
okay.
in a new baseball mitt, right? Like you gotta like oil it up and put it in the oven so that it actually like gets like broken in and becomes like a really good baseball mitt. Like, same thing with mats. Like, you don't want to just be
You need
out
a
on
really
brand
big
new
oven.
mats. Got to
Really
put them in
big
the
oven.
oven, honestly. But no, I mean, that, to me, that's what it looked like. Like, these are brand new mats, and it's probably humid in here. It doesn't help with these brand new logos and, this brand new layer on this mat. Like, just not conducive. Like, watching, what match was it? I think it was Mike Mock's semi, I think. Maybe it was I think it was a semifinal, and he's trying to get a shot off, and he's slipping and sliding, and he can't even, like, get to a penetration. He can't even do anything. And I'm like, this is horrible. Like, these are the top guys that we have in the country, and they can't even shoot. Like, this isn't good. This is not good at all. And then, I did see that video, Robbie, that the they had very limited space to warm up, and the space that they had to warm up was just like riddled with kids. And it's just like, where are these guys going to get ready to make a world team?
Yeah,
Right? Like,
that's tough.
it's that it just was not at all. I mean, Robbie, as you said, it was just not at all conducive to the gravity of, like, the moment that we were in over the weekend of watching people make the world team trials finals. Like, that wouldn't go down at anywhere else. It wouldn't go down in gymnastics. It wouldn't go down for track and field. I mean, could you imagine track and field doing something in a subpar venue on a subpar track? Like, that doesn't happen. I understand there's way more money. Like, you get like Nike proper to throw logos on that stuff. Like, very different, the scale of money that goes into those things, and ESPN being on those and not Flow Wrestling. But let's call it what it is. Like, that stuff isn't, like, we need to do better in that regard, because this isn't the first time we're talking about slippery mats. It's like
It would have been a nightmare if somebody like got hurt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I was
Like,
just
really
gonna
easy
say,
to blow an ACL there.
yeah, we
Yeah.
talk about money and it's you can't afford to do this, have a different venue, and you have to use the mats, but it's at what point is safety not a concern anymore? Like,
Right.
you slip in, you said tear out an ACL, all these guys warming up on one mat, like we've all done that before. You finish a takedown into someone's knee, it buckles, like you see it too often, honestly. And
Mhm.
Hayden Zoomer could take out like 7-year-olds at once.
yeah.
yeah, it's like, come on, like the safety of the athletes first, and if you have to put a little money into it, great. It's there's money to go around. You just gotta find ways to do it.
Yeah.
It just
And if you want to keep them together as a one large event, I mean, separate it with scheduling. I mean, even with that, like the finals were at 1:30 Eastern time. Like, what we gotta be better as a sport in marketing things like that too. 1:30 on a Saturday afternoon is not the time at which to hold a finals of a major tournament. Like,
Yeah.
do it in the evening. Maybe do it at 2 o'clock instead of 1:30, because who the hell starts an event at 1:30? Like, come on.
On Bobby Taylor's birthday party.
of all the times.
It was
Of
3 hours before the party bus started.
Yeah. So it's just, not at all conducive to the world stage that we in the wrestling community think that they should be on, right? Like, they should be like, understandably, I'm glad that we at least have Final X, where it's a proper event to showcase our talent and the gravity of making a world team. But even still, like, I feel like we have to do better with, the world team trials. And I'm sorry, but sharing them with a child's event, it ain't it. It just isn't. And like I said, I understand the US Open, but in the US Open, they're not like, they're separate venues where like the child's tournament, the children's tournament is going on in a completely separate part of, the venue, at least when I was in Vegas the last time. But I don't know. I feel like we just need to do better, honestly.
I like to think that this is an experiment that failed and that it just won't be done like this again.
I blame Kentucky.
You would think so, but we've kind of been down
That's not how we work.
it's been down the
We're
road.
gonna do the same shit over and over again and
A
continue to
lot.
watch it not work until
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that the penny pinching doesn't happen as much, right? Like let's truly allocate some money to a proper event for the world stage and showcase it the way it should be showcased. That's my thought. Gentlemen, any other thoughts before we wrap up and put a bow on episode 1?
Have you guys played this Gable game?
Haven't.
I tried it. I was not good at it.
I sucked at it yesterday, but I got it today in 3 because the correct wrestler was Sergio Lemley.
I'm gonna get it in 1 now.
Incredible.
Is this another DeMarco product? Is he doing this? Do you know who runs it?
I don't know who runs it. It might be his. He posts about it all the time.
Still owes
So
me a damn shirt, Tony.
I don't think he does it though because he posts like his results. So it would be weird
it's like
for
an
him to
automated
set the
thing.
game and then do it. Yeah,
It's just like an algorithm.
Yeah,
but it is
Maybe it's
fun.
the WrestleStat guys.
maybe. Well, gentlemen, as always, fun conversation. Always love it. But that's a wrap for episode 1 of the Quad Pod. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. If you've got thoughts, hot takes, any suggestions, or maybe the inside scoop on something, drop it in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, send us an email. All that info is below. Then
Carrier pigeon.
carrier pigeon, get it to us somehow, right? But certainly, make sure that you do get subscribed wherever. And again, thank you to our sponsor, Poseidon Strength. And we'll catch you every Wednesday. So next Wednesday and every Wednesday, we will be on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Gentlemen, as always a fun time, and we'll see you next week.